Two. Hey, welcome everybody to another episode of Before the Ballman Speaks. I'm your host, as always, Andrew the Clown Kid Lawrence. And helping me break down the fights tonight, man, we had a crazy main event of UFC 201. Tyron Woodley with the upset victory. It seems like every event that I have, I'm saying the upset victory in the main event. The upset victory over one Mr. Robbie Lawler. For the 170-pound belt, helping me break down all the action from a crazy wild night, at least in the pay-per-view section of the card, is Winnipeg's youngest aspiring journalist, Winnipeg's favorite son.
There we go.
Winnipeg's latest driver. Have you got the driver's license quite yet?
Beginners, half and half, so to speak.
So they don't let you out at night. Anyway, it's Nick Baldwin. From the MMA Circus. How you doing, Nick?
It is Nick Baldwin. It is your co-host. Thank you for having me on. But one correction. Did you say that was the main event? Tyron Woodley knocking out Lawler? That was a post-lim, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, great. It's so awesome. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
It's predictable at this route. You know, it's funny when it's new, but now it's old hat, Nicholas.
I don't really understand the UFC's aim and angle of the post-lim. It's kind of something Bellator, WSOF will do, but I'm surprised UFC has started to do so as well.
They charge a lot of money for that post-lim.
They do, yeah. $60 or like 100 Canadian. It's quite expensive for a few fights.
Who really understands the Canadian monetary system? I would say
Canadians, and that's about it.
Okay, so let's talk about Tyron Woodley. A lot of people weren't giving him a shot earlier in this week, but then we saw the line really fade towards Tyron Woodley. He closed at about a 130, 125, something around that range.
Yeah, that was probably all Mike Biggie Rhodes, I would assume.
He had a lot of support in the Milwaukee area for sure. Tyron Woodley, he came out here and did what Tyron Woodley does, and that's put big punches on you early in a fight. Tyron Woodley's always been notorious for gassing. You know, it was a big hoopla.
That's what he does, and he didn't do that, so just to play devil's advocate a little bit.
He didn't have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah. He didn't do what he does, though, more often than not.
Yeah, but that's whatever. It doesn't matter. The point of it was he connected early, and the legendary chin of Robbie Lawler kind of failed him a little bit.
Yeah. The thing is, I picked Robbie Lawler going in. I said Tyron Woodley, the layoff in 17 months. Last fight was a mediocre split decision over Gastelum back in January of 2015. So you look at that and say, going up against ruthless Robbie Lawler, I can't be confident in that person coming off the layoff. Then you factor in his cardio issues. He's gone 5 rounds. Well, he's never made it to the 5-round limit, but he's been in a 5-round fight once or twice. It's definitely the Nate Marquardt fight for the Strikeforce title. Might have been one other, but I think this was his second. And the cardio issues, even in the 3-rounder, is an issue. He seems to gas, as you said there. So factor those in, and I landed on Robbie Lawler, but I did give Woodley a chance because there's one thing Tyron Woodley is good at doing, and that's knocking people out, closing their lights, turning off their lights in the first round. And Robbie Lawler has taken a heck of a lot of damage in these past 2 years and in his entire veteran career. So someone's chin eventually goes. Chins don't last forever, and you figure, will it be this time or will it be against Wonderboy or against whoever else? And it happened to be against Tyron Woodley tonight.
Yep, I definitely think there was a lot of discussion about Robbie Lawler's chin, and a lot of it was a bit unfounded considering that he had been through these wars. Now, the accumulation of damage clearly exists. But what's the narrative coming out of this? Is it that Robbie Lawler doesn't fight for, or you know, is that the beginning of his decline, or have we just seen an anomaly?
Yeah.
No. But think about this. You know, we got guys like Michael Bisping, who everyone's like, he's on his decline. Just he comes back and wins the championship. Andre Arlovsky, guy should retire. You know, how many guys do we call for retirement end up having really high-level, great fights against elite fighters?
Like, the thing is, it's hard to say over this past 17 months that Tyron Woodley has been away. Has Woodley really improved that much? I'm sure he's gotten better. He's training now at Rufus Sport, great camp, changing things up, training with really great fighters, of course. But we can't really tell if he has improved that much.
Well, not from this fight, Nicholas, because it only happened, we're talking about a KO in 2 minutes and 12 seconds.
That's what I'm saying. We don't know if he'll come back against Wonderboy in his next fight and look absolutely amazing, put Wonderboy to sleep, or if he'll just kind of do what other Wonderboy opponents do and freeze up and can't do anything, so to speak.
Let's put this to rest as well. But right now, the next title fight to make in the welterweight division is Tyron against Wonderboy Thompson. It was
Robbie Lawler.
There's no more. Yeah, we wanted that fight, but that's not the fight that's happening. Yeah. There's no instant rematch from this. This was a clean KO. I don't want to see. People can cite maybe his historical value in the 170-pound division, but I don't see that as being a lead argument.
He doesn't really deserve it. He 2 defenses. One was controversial. One he was losing up until he busted up Rory's nose even more than he already had. It's not like...
The win itself was controversial of Johnny Hendricks.
Yeah, and Robbie Lawler is a great fighter. He's a great brawler. He's very exciting. He's a great champion, or he was a great champion, of course. But it's not like his title run has been clear and concise. Like you said there, the Johnny Hendricks win, controversial. Carlos Condit, controversial. Barely got past Roy McDonald. So there's like, if you want to argue Woodley Lawler too, go ahead, but I can't support that one bit.
I think a lot of it has to do with, I believe Wonderboy Thompson's the best 170-pound fighter. I'd favor him in a fight against Tyron Woodley. I mean, how far you can take that, or how much credence you can put into you favoring a fighter in 2016 UFC, that remains to be seen. But I think that it's a no-brainer for the 170-pound title. Jesus, I just want to give him a 5-pound allowance today. Tyron Woodley, what does this say for his mixed martial arts career, and where do you foresee this title reign? Do you see him making it past the Wonderboy? Do you see him, if they don't make that matchup, winning any other matchup against someone in the top 5?
Well, I mean, you look at the Roy McDonald loss, and yes, he's going to get better. That was 2 years ago, but I just don't see him as a dominant champion, especially in this day and age where it seems like champions get dethroned every other fight, so to speak. It's not like Lawler, his title defense wasn't that long. It's less than 2 years, and that's just not that long. Tyron Woodley, I don't think it'll be any different. He has very powerful striking, and I will give him credit. He actually showed that he's a bit quicker than I actually thought going in. Maybe that's something he's worked on and whatnot, his speed, but he's definitely very athletic. He's a good fighter. Like, a bad fighter doesn't knock out Robbie Lawler. He's very, very talented, and he deserves to be the champion 100%. But go back and look at the loss to Roy McDonald. If he doesn't throw right away, if he doesn't connect early, sometimes he can choke, and lots of fighters choke against Wonderboy. And if Woodley's kind of prone to perhaps getting I don't know what the word is, but just kind of getting confused by someone's style, Wonderboy is definitely the man to do so. I don't favor Woodley in a fight against Wonderboy. Wonderboy isn't the harder hitter out of the two, but he has such a diverse style, so interesting, and I think he will and would light up Tyron Woodley all day. But props to Woodley, because he's the champion now. Definitely deserves it. We get a paycheck boost up. As a fighter that wasn't necessarily because he goes to decision sometimes if it's not first round knockout, sometimes boring, really. Kelvin Gastelum, that wasn't a fun fight really at all. Props to him. He'll gain fans and gain money, of course.
And I think that the long layoff didn't win him over many fans. I know personally I was very critical of him taking 16 months off of the fight game. Now, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, as far as his matchup goes against him, I find it to be the most interesting stylistic matchup right now in the 170-pound division, only because Tyron, Woodley could just rush you and has that athleticism that I think can counter Stephen Wonderboy Thompson's ability to dictate range and his ability to stay on the outside. So I think that that's a very compelling fight. I think it's a must-do fight at 170 pounds. Let's talk about Robbie Lawler's reign as a 170-pound champion. Jesus Christ. Let's talk about how it'll kind of be remembered, because I'm viewing I don't see Robbie getting the title back. I just see too many really compelling fighters at the division now that are younger, and the styles are a little bit more.
One of them right there.
Exactly. So, how do we look back on Robbie Lawler and what he accomplished over these last 2 years?
He's a fan favorite that doesn't draw, which is very disappointing because he deserves to be a draw. He put on some of the most exciting fights in recent memory in this sort of new era of the UFC the past few years. Carlos Condit, that was fun. Roy McDonald, obviously, that was the fight of the year last year. Will be remembered as an all-time classic. He will be remembered, honestly, at his title reign specifically will be remembered as a very fun title reign, but at the same time, some perhaps a little underdeserving. I guess I don't know if that's the right word. Like just the fact that go back, it was a little bit controversial because of the decisions. Perhaps he got more than he deserved.
I think that because of the action in these fights, compare his title run to say someone like a Benson Henderson's. Benson Henderson's happened over the same length of time, but there was more fights. But Benson Henderson was a notoriously despised champion. Yeah, but he was a notoriously despised champion during his run. Despite the controversy in the decisions of Robbie Lawler's fights were always very interesting and were always full of action. And they were always full of action because of his need to press the action, or his desire to press the action. And I think that made the hardcore fan base just fall in love with Robbie and will forever be in love with Robbie. I hope that they graduate him to this kind of burgeoning money-weight division that's happening in UFC and get him some fun fights against some big names.
The thing is, it's still kind of to be determined whether or not he'll be a title contender again. It's hard to say he will be because of his age. Yeah. Like, I don't know it off the top of my head, but I imagine in mid-30s already, the wear and tear. Clearly, he's taken so much damage. His chin is Woodley hits really hard, so it's hard to say that Lawler's chin is completely gone, but it's probably getting there, if not completely gone. So it'll give him one more fight. Give him one more fight, and we'll see where he is in the division, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. I would love to see him do like a rematch fight against Nate Diaz. Let's move on to the co-main event. Another upset victory with Double K, Karolina Kowalski, taking a victory over Rose Namajunas. Rose, is a fan favorite, and everyone really wants to see Rose be very successful in the strawweight division. But it was all Karolina in the second and third round here. I know that it ended up being a split decision victory with one judge giving the card to Rose, but I clearly scored the second and third round to Double K. I'm looking forward to her matchup against Joanna Jędrzejczyk. I think it's a cool angle with Poland against Poland, but I don't think she has the tools necessary to really make an impact against Double J.
Well, as far as the matchup goes, I had Rose Namajunas going in. I thought she'd be able to take this to the mat a bit more. It did actually surprise me in the first round how competitive she was on the feet. She got the takedown, I believe, but she looked good on the feet. But man, once Kowalkiewicz was able to piece her up a little bit more in the second and third rounds on the feet, Rose Namajunas really, really looked out of it, especially in the third round. She just kind of looked permanently wobbled a little bit, which was kind of strange because Karolina did hit her very hard, but it didn't seem like she hit her with anything fight changing. I don't know if you got that feeling as well, but it didn't seem that way to me, but clearly it did because it changed the fight.
Well, the fight-changing blows were clearly, I think, in the second round when she started kicking to the body significantly. Her body shot accumulated.
Body strikes, even strikes to the head. She looked really, really sharp on the feet.
Well, I actually think that the body strikes were more significant because Rose ended up slowing down her movement directly in response to those body shots.
Yeah,
so.
both were a little bit tired, but Namajunas by far more tired, and yes, you have to definitely give credit for those body shots to Karolina. That's definitely what did that.
Okay.
But yeah, good performance by Karolina. And as far as the Joanna fight, again, I will say that I think Joanna probably wins that fight. But if they don't try and do this in Poland, they're doing something wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. You need to do this one in Poland. Let's think about it from the UFC's perspective. Are you happy with this win, or are you disappointed that you didn't get kind of your marquee girl in Rose into the title picture?
Well, it's hard to say because I think both although Namajunas is more well known than Carolina, even at this point, I still believe that she's been in the UFC a bit longer. People can say her name, and that's bigger than some people think when it comes to casual fans. She's a bit more. You just know who, like, she's a bit more noteworthy. You remember her more than you remember Carolina. Even after this fight. The angle, the pole versus pole angle is huge for the UFC, especially if they do it in Poland. If not, Manchester is a good second option. I think they perhaps lost out a little bit just because we still don't, or people, casual fans especially, still don't know who Carolina is as much as they do Namajunas. But the pole versus pole angle is still definitely a great option. But it's hard to say. I do think they lost out a little bit, though.
Yeah, definitely. I think that you really wanted. Thug Rose seemed to have an angle and a charisma, and she has a following and a personality that people latched onto. I really think that she hasn't lost any real potential in becoming a champion maybe in a few years, but it does seem like she needs some seasoning. She needs some elite level fights to just to bring her overall game up. She's not that far away. But the problem is in this division is there really isn't a second tier. There's that elite tier of maybe Claudia and Joanna. Maybe Carolina proves herself to be in that elite class. And then there's everyone else underneath, and it seems that Rose can walk her way through nearly everyone.
She's kind of in between those two groups.
Yep. But props to the UFC for finding someone like Carolina to match Rose. You know, they could have easily buried a girl like Double K and not had her fight Thug Rose and give Thug Rose an easier path to the title. But they found a girl with no name, in fact,
because
with very comparable skills.
You really couldn't go wrong with this fight. Go ahead.
No, I'm good, yeah.
But I was just going to say, they really can't go wrong either way. Like I said, the Namajunas fight is intriguing, and Carolina, the pole versus pole again, intriguing angle. So they couldn't really go wrong either way.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely not. Let's talk about another upset victory inside of the third show or the third fight of the pay-per-view. Matt Brown's shockingly losing to Jake Ellenberger. Jake Ellenberger in a do-or-die fight for his UFC career. And shows up in the biggest way possible. We haven't seen Jake Ellenberger look this good in years.
Yeah, I probably never seen him look that good because I got into the sport only in a few years. But Jake Ellenberger, man, oh man. Like you said, he goes out when he needs to get the win. I'm still really shocked. This was by far the most surprising moment of the night for me, and that includes Woodley's vicious knockout over Lawler. I was by far more surprised by this outcome. I thought Matt Brown would be able to just tear apart Jake Ellenberger and dominate him and finish him in the first round. Most people were expecting that as well. Matt Brown, I believe, was a pretty large favorite. Jake Ellenberger we just thought was a sharp fighter, and I still believe he's going to lose to more and more people, but man, he still looked really good. I don't know how he gained more motivation, but it absolutely seemed like that, because why didn't he go out there and destroy Tarek Safadine earlier this year? I don't have an answer to that. Matt Brown, the one takeaway is that his liver has always been weak and shows that once again, but still can't take away anything from Ellenberger, because you still have to land that kick. That's easier said than done. And he nearly KO'd Matt Brown in 5 seconds. So just a fantastic performance from Jake Ellenberger. I am still shocked, and it's going to be interesting to see where he goes from here.
Yeah, definitely. A great performance. It seemed to right off the start in that first exchange. Matt Brown was hurt and kind of playing recovery the whole time. But good on Jake Ellenberger for having the patience, looking for a shot later on there, respecting the toughness of a guy like Matt Brown. Poor Matt Brown, I can't help but walk away from this fight and think about the fact that he might be fading out and all those big wars that he's been in throughout his career. It might be time that damage is accumulating with him when Jake Ellenberger, is going out there putting finishes on you. I start to put a question mark next to your name.
Yeah, we said going in, we thought Jake Ellenberger was a shot fighter, and although that definitely could be the case, It's looking more and more like it's Matt Brown.
Yeah, right. It's an unfortunate thing. I'm not quite sold yet on the return of Jake Ellenberger.
No.
He looks really good though in the Muay Thai style, especially coming out of Rafael Cordero and King's MMA.
But instantly after he kind of landed that shot and that big flurry, he started backing up. Matt Brown started coming on, and if it wasn't for that one kick, and I can't really call it a lucky kick, but if it wasn't for that one kick, I still think Matt Brown would have come back and won that fight.
Yeah, it did definitely look like he had a turnaround in him, and he was stalking him down. Unfortunately, I think a lot of that had to do with Jake, though, being really patient and waiting for his spot. Jake Ellenberger, I don't really want to see him, get pushed into a title fight or into any. Just have him fight a big-ish name that kind of floats around that. Have him fight like a Patrick Cote or a Patrick Cote-like fighter coming off of a victory. Maybe a Donald Cowboy Cerrone in a bit. Or is Cowboy already beaten him?
Probably. No,
yeah,
but
it's hard to lose. I've lost track of the Jake Ellenberger losses.
There's too many. Bring back Josh Koscheck and do that rematch.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about some of these flyweight fights that happened to open up the card. Which, by the way, UFC, poor decision-making. Don't open up pay-per-views with 125-pound fights. They're very interesting fights.
One was a bantamweight, but
one was bantamweight. I guess so. Yeah, you're right. Ryan Benoit. The lightweight fights.
Rivera. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. They're just. At this time of the night, we have excitement. We had the Jorge Masvidal fight. We had the Nikita Krylov fight, and then you're bringing the energy back down with a real cerebral fight. At this point, we're just cavemen, and we want to see death.
Especially with the guy that is 3-0 now 3-1, that just isn't that good of an MMA fighter. He's a good wrestler. He has power on the feet, but he just can't put it all together. And no discrediting him. He got into sport late and probably in his 30s. He's 36, only 3-0, but you don't open up a pay-per-view with that type of fighter. And Ryan Benoit is more experienced. He's better. He won the fight, but it's not like he's anything to ride home about either. I was actually, and believe it or not, I was disappointed with Ryan Benoit versus Freddy Serrano. I really expected either a blitz in the first round from either guy, first round knockout, or a fun back and forth fight, and what we got was not that.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Eric Perez, but if we're going to talk about the Freddy Serrano fight. This was just not all that entertaining of a fight. You saw Freddy Serrano have his moment in the second, but Ryan Benoit had some good success in the stand-up, but it was just by a hair. So neither fighter to be made an impact. And if you're going to have a highlight spot like being a curtain jerker on a pay-per-view here, make the most of a moment and really take control over your own destiny here. I was happy to see Benoit get the victory because I thought he deserved it. But a lot of people were calling BS at a split decision. I was fine with the BS decision here. I could have been cool if this was the second draw of the night. Yeah,
I agree.
All right, let's talk about, very briefly, Eric Perez and his victory over Francisco Rivera. A really interesting fight that kind of got overshadowed. If this had been kind of a stinker of a night, they had potential there to really be an interesting fight. God damn it, is Francisco Rivera tough, basically.
Yeah, man. Can we just talk about the first 40 seconds of the third round? Thank you very much. Man. Rivera came into the third round, and he did what he almost had to do because he was down 2018. Not super clearly, but most people had him down 2-0. And he nearly got the knockout. Eric Perez started trading, and probably not to his best interest because he was up and started trading with Francisco Rivera. Luckily, he ended up getting Rivera down to the ground and grinded out the rest of the round. But after Rivera had nothing in the tank. But, man, he just went out there. It was a throwback to Cisco versus Lineker last year. Man, they just threw down for 20 to 30 seconds, and then they were done. And then Perez got on top and like I said, grinded out the victory there. But I hope they don't cut Cisco because I still think, despite recent losses, he's such a fun fighter. Don't cut him, in my opinion.
Yeah, I wouldn't cut him, especially because that division's short on names, and you're in kind of these wars, and you definitely get some fan recognition on your name. My one concern with Francisco Rivera is that he is a fighter who has to or does his best fighting or his most memorable fighting in these very low technique, crazy exchanges that he seems to get in the worst
that
of.
he loses, yes.
Yeah.
Lineker subbed him, and now Perez got on top, and like I said, won there, grinding him out for 4 minutes. The only thing, like, I really sometimes criticize fighters for not giving it their all when they're down on the scorecards. If you're going into the third round, 2018, very clearly, why the hell are you not going for it? Look at Ross Pearson. He was down 2018, and he really didn't go for it. Big props to Cisco for going for it. The only mistake he made was doing it at the very beginning and not with 2 minutes to go.
No, I think it's great to get him, to get out there early because it might be the time where you had the most energy. Cisco seemed like a guy who was gassed. I tipped the cap to Francisco Rivera. We moved through this fight quickly, but it was actually quite the hell of a fight.
Yeah, it was fun.
Closing out the Fox Sports 2 prelims was Nikita Krylov taking a KO victory in the second round, 40 seconds of the second round over Mr. Ed Herman. The GOAT, man. You can't stop his climb to the top. Ed Herman, here's the question for you. Is Ed Herman the biggest name on Nikita Krylov's, win column? In his victories, is Ed Herman the biggest name?
I don't know. I would have to go back. I'm pulling up Nikita Krylov's record as we speak. If my internet loads a bit quicker, I will have it here. But yeah, I think Ed Herman, name-wise, may be the biggest. I'm not, and at the same time, this is definitely Nikita Krylov's best performance and most impressive performance. Head kick knockout. That was probably the best head kick knockout I've seen since probably Thiago Santos over Steve Bosse, and that was what was it? A year ago, 2 years ago, I forget. But that was an insane knockout by Nikita Krylov, his first knockout since Cody Donovan back in July of 2014. So it's been over 2 years.
Real quick, before we talk about the biggest name on his victory sheet here, a little peruse of his Wikipedia page has reminded me that Saul Paleli fought and defeated Nikita Krylov. They allowed Saul Paleli, who is massive, to fight Nikita Krylov. That is a miscarriage of justice, poor Nikita Krylov. That's before he gained the GOAT powers.
Yeah, of course. People joke, I think, that was a terrible fight. But anyways, Nikita Krylov, though, we always like to make jokes and say, oh, yeah, this guy versus
But he looked genuinely good.
But he looked genuinely good. Is a good fighter now. Like, I legit think he's a top 10 light heavyweight fighter. This guy has legit skills. His grappling is great, and now his striking is insane too. Nikita Krylov, I legit think can be a contender in the next year or two.
He for sure has an enormous, awesome chin. He has very good punching power. This new wrinkle in his game of kicks is phenomenal, and he can grind it out and kind of grapple with you. If he takes the right steps and they keep this slow, mature, let's be honest with you, he beat Ed Herman, a glorified 185-pounder who's washed up. We need to have him fight someone who's like a genuine 205 or worth something.
Give him Shogun Rua.
I love that. That's a fantastic matchmaking.
Because I would favor Krylov in that fight.
I would as well.
And that's a huge name on his resume.
Yep, I think so too. And I think especially if you space that out the timing of that fight and give like 9 months around it before he has to fight someone else, it'll allow him to also mature in his game, and it will be such a confidence booster for a young fighter like Krylov.
And it's really funny because Latifi's fighting Ryan Bader next, and I legit think Latifi has a good chance in that fight.
He does.
That's a huge win. That's a huge win too. And I'm really loving these Nagano versus Derek Lewis matchups, Krylov versus Latifi.
That's terrible. No, not yet. Though you have to wait.
UFC 300 when they're both for the title.
300. Get out of here. Trying 2 years. It's gonna be 2 years.
Oh, 2 years. Okay.
Yeah.
250.
That's 222. Anyhow. Let's talk about the other major matchup that happened on Fox Sports 2. Ross Pearson losing a fight that probably should have been stopped in the second against Jorge Masvidal. What did you think about this fight? Did you think it was a miscarriage of justice? Do you think it should have been stopped?
No, I don't think it should have been stopped. Ross Pearson did what he had to do defense-wise to make sure the judge didn't.
What defense did he do?
He moved. I'm not
saying moving's defense now.
It's defense enough if he can get out of the way of Jorge Masvidal's punches and strikes.
But he wasn't. He was moving but still getting viciously hit.
But he recovered. He was able to get back to his feet.
He got knocked back into consciousness.
You can say that, but you're wrong.
But it happens all the time.
Whatever. As far as this fight goes, then as far as this fight goes, though, Jorge Masvidal had the size advantage here. Yeah. And the reach by far. Really, the story of this fight was Ross Pearson just couldn't get into Jorge Masvidal's range. He couldn't connect enough and wobble Jorge Masvidal. And it is kind of interesting because this is Pearson's first either 2-fight winning streak or 2-fight losing streak for like a long time. It's always been a win, loss, win, loss. So it's going to be interesting to see where he goes from here. No really shame because he stepped up on short notice, just fought Will Brooks a couple weeks back. This is in welterweight, but good performance from Jorge Masvidal. It is good to see him back in the winning column because of all these split decisions that haven't gone his way. Larkin, I scored that for Masvidal. Benson could have gone either way, and then Quinta definitely Masvidal, I thought, won that fight. So good to see Masvidal back into the winning column with a good performance over Ross Pearson.
Yeah, definitely. I think that Jorge Masvidal would have had the potential to be a perennial top 5 if he wanted to stay at 155 pounds. He's decided to forego that and go this different route. I think that he's going to run into some stiff competition once you get to the upper echelon of 170. So good luck to him trying to, make decent name fights because you're not always going to get a Ross Pearson. You're not always going to get a 155-pounder and not want to cut the bit. Yeah, exactly. These aren't fights you're going to get in that division consistently. Definitely not when you have a name like Jorge kind of does.
He should fight Nick Diaz.
Yeah, that's never going to happen. So Ross Pearson has to be careful now because even though he's a Ultimate Fighter winner and he's important maybe for the market in UK, coming off of 2 fights and the way that they market his fights and his placement on cards, you could definitely see the UFC getting rid of a guy like Ross Pearson if he drops 1 or 2 more. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 1 or 2 more, then they'll be on like 3-4 winning streak. I agree. He's still a name value though.
You're not dropping him after this fight, definitely not. But
no.
He's known for alternating fights. So you got to keep getting back in that win column if you're Ross Pearson.
I think he will though. I think he'll be given another step up, so to speak, and get into the winning column. Maybe not. Like it's hard to say. But whatever.
He needs to take a step down and fight someone.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
An unranked 155-pounder seems right up. And try for an aging one. Get like a Jim Allers, Ross. Get a Jim Miller. See if you can ring up one of those dudes. Let's talk a little bit about Wilson Reese. Yeah, let's talk about Royce Gracie. Let's talk about Wilton Hayes. He was supposed to be fighting in the co-main event against DJ, and how that didn't work out for him. Instead, he fought Hector Sandoval and choked him out real quick. That was fun, or was it just like, meh?
You skipped over Francis Gano's next victim.
Oh, yeah. I have it listed down in the prelims because of all the shakeups. We'll talk about Mr. Hamilton. But Wilson Hayes and his flyweight mastery of submission.
If he wants to still be considered a title contender, if he ever was, and still kind of earn that Demetrius Johnson title fight, this is exactly what he had to do. Hector Sandoval, I gave him props for stepping up. I thought he still is a good fighter in my opinion. I think he'll still do well, but definitely grappling on a different level, especially when Sandoval is kind of known for his grappling. Wilson Hayes goes in there, gets this up very early. Impressive performance, but at the same time, this is exactly what he had to do. Can't say I was overly shocked or overly impressed because it's kind of what everybody was expecting.
Yep. Speaking of things that people expected, Anthony Hamilton KO'd Damian Grabowski.
I didn't expect that.
I expected it. I figured that one of these dudes was going to throw big fists in the middle of the first round and someone was going to connect. I didn't expect that it was going to happen in 14 seconds, I'll tell you that much. But I knew that this is going to be some pretty much unsloppy, not so fit guys throwing big leather at each other.
That seemed like the longest 14 seconds ever. Probably because it was heavyweights and probably lower level heavyweights, but I don't know why. But I figured that was at least 30 seconds. But great performance from Anthony Hamilton. You're starting to wonder if Derek Lewis either changed Grabowski or if he was just never a UFC caliber fighter. But Anthony Hamilton getting back into the winning column with an impressive knockout. Props to him.
Yeah, I think it's the latter there that Grabowski maybe never belonged here in the first place, but it's heavyweight, guys, so we're kind of seeing a lower level of talent than we're used to in other
It's funny.
weight classes.
Throughout the night, I started figuring out that my picks were just not going my way, so I figured, okay, so I'm picking this, so it's going to be the exact opposite. I was picking Lawler late, so I figured, Woodley by KO in the first round most likely, and same with this fight. Very amazing. Very amazing.
All right, so Anthony Hamilton, you want to feed him to the Predator? That's what everyone on Twitter wants to do.
Well, it's either Hamilton or good old Tim Johnson with his beard.
Give him Hamilton.
Let's
save Timmy Johnson, please.
Yeah, whoever. Doesn't matter.
A fantastic Fight Pass main event.
Oh, love this.
Great, amazing fight. It went to a draw just because you couldn't have a loser. It was such a good fight.
Yes, the best part was the judges. Just the fact that, I don't know, they did stuff.
I don't even care. I'd be upset with the judges if this fight wasn't such a just nausea-inducing event. Michael Graves has a way of making every fight boring ever.
I can't believe they profiled this as a featured fight.
Well, they're just doing it because the last fight's always whatever. I was actually decently impressed with the Volyachick or whatever his name is, Bojan. I thought that, that's a hard grind to get off you, and he was successful doing it in 2 rounds. I thought he deserved the fight.
Really?
Yeah, I thought that he took the first and the third.
Vlišković?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. See, no one really cares. That's how little it matters, right?
You scored it 29-28, right? No 10-8 or anything?
No 10-8.
I scored it. Well, some people scored a 10-8 for Graves in the second.
That's fucking stupid.
Okay, but I had a 29-29, a draw.
Yeah, because you scored the third round of 10-10.
You got it.
Yeah, but in that third round he outstruck him 10-1.
Yeah, but didn't Graves get a few takedowns? I believe so.
For like 2 seconds. Okay, whatever. No one cares.
Yeah, no one cares. Why are we talking about this?
Damian Brown faced a guy named Cesar Amorza-Morenda, something like that. There's a lot of syllables.
He
KO'd him in the first round.
I missed this fight when it was live, but then they played it right after Lawler Woodley, and it's just so weird going from Woodley versus Lawler to nobodies. Good performance from Damian Brown, I guess. Got a knockout over a guy that isn't good.
Well, there you go. It's 155-pound division. If you're on this lower end of the totem pole there, knock out a guy on the Fight Pass prelims. Hope they replay it in the pay-per-view section. There you go.
Yeah. Daniel Levy actually, of course, is in Atlanta and whatnot. He told me that the 3 guys that looked bad was weight cutting wise was Brown, Damian Brown, Hayes, and Woodley. So now anyone that has a bad weight cut, pick them.
Pick them. Bad weight cuts are the way to go.
Yeah, that's the new launch. Okay.
All right, dude. Joe Silva time. Give us your performance of the night bonuses. Give out 2.
Performance of the night. I hate doing this because they're already making enough money, but I would give out to the man, Tyron Woodley, the new welterweight champion, and the not shot welterweight, Jake Ellenberger.
Boom. Yeah, I'm with you. You have to give Jake Ellenberger a nod and 50 G's in his pocket. Pretty sure that fighting at Glendale Fight Club probably emptied his pockets. I hear you got to pay. You got to pay in cash for every one-on-one lesson with the man Edmund Tarverdyan. I'll give another 50 G's to the man, the myth, the legend, Nikita Krylov, because goddamn knows they go a long way out there in the Ukraine.
They do.
All right, give us your fight of the night, man.
I will not have a fight tonight. I will give out 2 more performance of the night. I will give
just
one.
Think they can do that just because Joe Silva can do that doesn't mean you can do that. I asked for a fight of the night.
I cannot provide you with one at this time. Try me next week. I will give the other 3 and 4 to the man, the myth, the legend, the GOAT, the champion, Nikita Krylov. And it's either Hamilton or Hayes. I will go with the Predator's next victim.
Oh, okay. Anthony Hamilton gets 50 G's in his pocket. Good luck with that. I'm giving a fight of the night to Eric Perez against Francisco Rivera.
If it was the round of the night, then absolutely give it third round of that fight all day, all night. But if the fight of the night, the first 2 rounds were good, just not fight of the night worthy.
Okay, I can respect that, brother. I can respect it. Give us a grade for the whole card, A through F, man.
A grade for the card. Well, there were a few downers. Benoit, Serrano being at the top of the list. Graves, Lichkovic was another. But top to bottom, pretty solid card. I will give this A minus.
Sure, yeah, I'm giving it a B+. The hits keep on hitting for the UFC. No title belt is safe. Upsets abound. Everything we thought we know about this sport, we don't know shit, people. And I'm kind of enjoying it this way. What would a UFC card be like if it all went chalk? It'd be boring as all fucking hell. Nicholas, tell the people where they can hear from you and read about what you write and whatnot.
Well, they can actually hear from me tomorrow morning on TSN 1290's The Weigh-In. If you're in Winnipeg, if you're in Winnipeg, and I know nobody is, so if you're in Winnipeg, tune your little radio station into 1290. Listen to me talk tomorrow morning. I'll be half asleep because it's in the morning, and I don't usually wake up in the morning. But BloodyElbow.com is where you can find my writing. I'll have interview pieces, the MMA circus, of course. Andrew, you're fairly familiar with the MMA circus. We will have 2 shows next week. The first one will be co-hosted by you, of course, and another one you just don't want to do it, so I'll find someone else. On the Wednesday show, though, we have the 13th GOAT, Teruto Ishihara, on the show. We have new UFC welterweight fighter Max Griffin, and we have Bloody Elbow writer Ian Kidd talking about roids and MMA and whatever else. So that's where you can find me, and at NickUFC on the Twitter.
Boom. Everyone give him a follow out there in the Twitter space if you don't already. Hey, thanks, guys, for sticking around, and thank you, Nick, for being the co-host tonight. Especially shout out to the live viewers. Love having you stick around late with us here on Before the Bald Man Speaks. I'm your host, as always, Andrew Lawrence. We're coming out live now on Stitcher and some other platforms besides just the normal iTunes. We're finally getting our shit together here. Props to anyone, and if you haven't subscribed to us on iTunes or your platform of choice, please do. Give us a rank and review. We appreciate that very much.
5 stars or nothing.
5 stars or get the fuck out. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Before the Bald Man Speaks from UFC 201. Take it easy. Peace.